Hi, this is Shani Lavender, the Conscious Parents Coach, and I'm glad you're here today. I'm going to share with you a topic that is something that comes up for all parents because it really is a mistake that all of us make at one time or another with our children, and it's a discipline mistake. And what I want to do before I tell you what that mistake is and why it's a mistake, I want to tell you what I mean when I say discipline so that we're on the same page, because it has a lot of different meanings depending on who's using it. So when I say discipline, in this instance, what I'm referring to is the actions that you take as a parent when you're attempting to guide your child away from behavior that you deem inappropriate or unacceptable, or things that you're not okay with, toward behavior that you are okay with, that you do accept and that you do allow for them. So this isn't a judgment about whether you're making the right choice with that. No, it's just discipline. When I use it in this video, what I'm talking about is when you are attempting to guide your child away from certain behaviors and toward other behaviors. Okay? So you can think of it as education or guiding or leading, but that's what I'm talking about when I say discipline. So the number one discipline mistake, and I think when you hear it, you'll say, yes, I've done that. Or you might say, why is that a mistake? And I'll go into that afterwards. But the number one discipline mistake that most parents make is they attempt to discipline their child when emotions are very high in the moment when something's happening. So that sort of seems like common sense. You hear people talk about it, redirect your child, tell them no and then give them something that is okay to do. So that's really what I'm talking about. When the unacceptable behavior is going on and you're upset and your child is upset, trying to discipline them, move them to new behavior in that moment. That's what I'm talking about. That's the mistake to make. Or to avoid rather, but that's the mistake that we often make. So let me tell you why it's a mistake. The reason is that when emotions are high, what happens for humans is when our emotions get really high and revved up, that's can be a form of stress. And when we are under stress, our brain function gets less advanced. So in other words, as human beings, we have this nice human brain where we are logical and rational, and we can think about things and think about cause and effect and, really think about the consequences of our actions, so on and so forth. Under stress, what happens is we lose those faculties and we revert to more primitive brain states. So different parts of our brain that aren't rational, aren't logical, and sometimes, frankly, aren't even really a part of the brain that we can communicate with in any kind of verbal manner. It's primitive parts of our brain. It's the lizard brain, the lizard brain or the reptile brain, the mammal brain. And so what happens on our children's side, so if we're attempting to discipline them when their emotions are really high, they have lost that more executive brain function. And so they're getting more primitive in their brain. And this isn't a conscious, they're not choosing this. This is just what happens physiologically. So they, in that more primitive brain state, they are not going to be as skilled at comprehending. So really, it's like our words can wash over them. They might not even really understand what we're saying. They might not even hear if they're really agitated. They might not even actually be able to take in the stimulus of our talking to them. So from their standpoint, when they're really emotionally wound up and upset, they can't take in the teaching. So it's really pointless for us to attempt to teach them in that moment and discipline them because they're not going to take it in. So that's the thing with the children when their emotions are upset. From the adult perspective, what goes on for us when our emotions are really stressed and very high, we lose some of our executive function. And what that means as far as our communication is that rather than simply communicating, this behavior is not what I want, this is the behavior that I do want, and here's why, this very rational, calm, matter-of-fact type of exchange that we could have, that's not what we're communicating. We're communicating things that I know you don't want to communicate. We're communicating shame, basically through our words, through our tone of voice. We are communicating to our child that they are fundamentally flawed and unlovable. And we're communicating with them a conditionality about our love for them. So again, this is not a conscious thing that happens. Under stress, we are going to revert back and we're going to pull out of our mental models old habits, old beliefs, old ways of doing things. And those are going to be likely from our own childhood, and they're not going to be very good material. They're going to be some of our worst parenting skills, our most unloving things we can say and do. And you know this because you've done it and you've had then regret and shame afterwards. And so I don't want that for you. I don't want it for me. And so really the thing we need to do, and I'm not going to get into it in detail in this video, but the thing we need to do is save our discipline, save our redirecting, our teaching for moments when we and our children are calm, when we're in a state of more equilibrium, when we have our full human faculties of reason and logic. And so that's why our number one discipline mistake is to attempt to discipline our child when emotions are really high. We just don't want to do that. If something hurtful is happening, you can help your child stop that behavior, but that is not the time to help them understand and try and explain to them what they need to do instead and why and so on. No, not the time. So I hope that's really clear that the number one discipline mistake that you want to avoid is attempting to discipline your child in the moment when emotions are really high. You want to save that for later, because all it's going to do is really make it ineffective and basically have you talk for no reason and communicate things that are potentially really harmful for your child and for things that will harm the quality of your relationship with your child. So that's the gist of it. If you have questions or comments, as always, I welcome dialogue. And so you can put your comments below and I will interact with you there. If you want to find me more, the last slide in this video will show you my contact information, but you can also find me on Facebook in the Conscious Moms Circle, on my website, ShawneeLavender.com, or of course you can watch more of my YouTube videos. Again, my name is Shawnee Lavender, and thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.